My father believed that I was meant to unite the realm.
You made me king.
War is coming.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. House of the Dragon Season 2 episodes are starting this week. They're introducing a ton of new characters and dragons from the lore. Some are way bigger in the story, metaphorically and literally, because, for instance, Vermithor, literally the largest dragon after Vhagar, even though we saw him during Season 1. Some of the new people fairly infamous, like Blood and Cheese or House Rain. Most people remember them from the Red Wedding in the Rains of Castamere song, which was written in remembrance of the fall of House Rain at the hands of Tywin Lannister. So we'll break it all down. There's just so much stuff that they're baking in from the lore. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes just like Season 1 and the original show, so be sure to subscribe to get everything. There are way more lesser characters that they have coming to Season 2. Like, there are many, many new characters, but these are meant to just be the really, really big ones. There are 5 totally new dragons that they're introducing that we didn't see during Season 1. Now, there are way more that they could introduce in future seasons. They're just 5 brand new ones on top of the ones that they're bringing back from Season 1. Vermithor, like I said, we saw during Season 1, so I don't consider him a new one, but he is meant to be the oldest and biggest after Vhagar. Because dragons get bigger as they get older, so thus he's the second biggest because he's the second oldest. What they've also done for the dragons, you could probably tell in the last couple of trailers, is they've tuned the special effects, the visual effects, so that the dragons each look a little more distinct, because there's still a lot of casual viewers out there that probably won't be able to tell a lot of them apart. Vermithor, for instance, now has a big bushy grandpa beard around his head, but it's made of spikes, like there's spikes growing out of his head. King Jaehaerys was the last person to ride him before he died. He died just a couple years after the Great Council that we saw at the beginning of Season 1, that little prequel scene. The actual new dragons are Silverwing, Queen Alysanne's dragon. She was King Jaehaerys' wife, who died shortly before him, like right before that Great Council. That's why you didn't see her during the Great Council scene, because she'd already passed away. Both Silverwing and Vermithor have been roosting at the Dragonmont on Dragonstone ever since both of them died. Sheepstealer is supposed to be introduced, but I think they're changing the plot from the books, and it might be Rhaena, Daemon's other daughter, who winds up claiming her, not Nettles. I think the show is just passing over Nettles' plot and giving a lot of that to both Baela and Rhaena. Because also, another new dragon, Moondancer, who's Baela's dragon we see during the trailers, chasing Criston Cole back into the tree line during the battle at Rook's Rest. I think the show is just making the girls more active in the story than they were in the books. They didn't do a whole lot during the actual Dance of Dragons. The other 3 new dragons are Taraxes, Prince Joffrey's dragon, still too young to be ridden. Also, Joffrey's still way too young to actually do anything, so he's just chilling out at Dragonstone. Same thing with Stormcloud, Aegon III's dragon, who's been hatched, but who's even younger than Joffrey and his dragon Taraxes, so they're not doing any actual fighting either. Then we obviously have very big characters, very important, Blood and Cheese. Blood was a former commander in the City Watch, the Gold Cloaks, under Daemon. He was kicked out for brutality against the small folk. He basically beat a woman to death at a brothel, so they kicked him out of the Gold Cloaks. This was after Daemon had also left too. So as you would expect, he is also loyal to Daemon and also bitter at the Greens for kicking him out of the City Watch. Cheese is a rat catcher working inside the Red Keep, so he's learned all the secret passageways. Daemon knows them too, but because he's already inside the Red Keep, he works with Blood, and they get up to some really, really nasty stuff during episode 1. They're very, very big characters during episode 1, so no spoilers about what they're doing, but it's all out there in the book, so you can go read about them right now. Everybody's been asking about Daeron Targaryen, Alicent's 4th child with Viserys. They cut him from Season 1 because he'd already been born before the events of Episode 6 pick up with that huge time jump. The showrunners made it seem like he will also not be in Season 2, mostly because he's supposed to have been sent to Oldtown a long time ago, the seat of the Hightowers, and since that big time jump during Season 1 has essentially been in the Westeros version of boarding school in Oldtown. Because the show seems like it's not going to be going to Oldtown during Season 2, thus no Daeron, probably, but he could come back during Season 3 or Season 4. He's alive and active at this point. It's just that all of his stuff is going down in a part of Westeros that they're not really dealing with during Season 2. Next biggest, probably Cregan Stark, because it means the return of House Stark into the story in a bigger way. Now, they did feature House Stark during Season 1. Cregan's father, Rickon Stark, had a cameo scene when they were swearing their allegiance to Rhaenyra when she became the next heir officially in front of the realm. But all the many important things that happened to Kragan happened during the time jump between episode 5 and episode 6. The show just completely skipped over. I'll do a completely separate, much longer video about him and his significance to the story next week after we actually see him for the first time. House Stark, naturally some of the biggest characters throughout A Song of Ice and Fire across the timeline during many different parts. Very relevant for White Walker, for the Night's Watch, like a lot of the stuff that's just happening up in the north during this period. So a lot of people naturally curious about what's going on with them right now. He becomes a big ally to Rhaenyra, and there are obviously a lot of references to the original Game of Thrones series, a lot of Easter eggs that they bake in. For instance, you see him walking around on the wall with Jacaerys while he's wearing ice, which is still in one piece, because Tywin Lannister won't melt it down into 2 different Valyrian swords till the events of the main show after the death of Ned Stark. R.I.P. All the Dragon Seeds are probably the next most important brand new characters. The Dragon Seeds are all the Targaryen or Valyrian bastards who they find who have enough Valyrian blood in their veins, making them capable of bonding with riderless dragons. Now, the show has also changed the Dragon Seeds plot from the books to, this seems like who all of them will be on the show, sitting with Rhaenyra. Notice that Daemon is also not here because it seems like they introduced the Dragon Seeds after he's taken off for Harrenhal because there's this big rift between Daemon and Rhaenyra during season 2. Sitting closest to her, you have Jacaerys, naturally, because he's her son, he's her heir, his dragon is Vermax. Baela and Moondancer, remember, who's betrothed to him, so technically they're supposed to be getting married. Like I said, they're probably giving a lot of Nettles plot to her because Nettles was one of the Dragon Seeds in the books. Hugh Hammer and Vermithor, Ulf White, who rides Silverwing, and Adam Hole, one of Corlys Valerian's bastards, who winds up riding Seasmoke. I think we're going to see most of the Dragon Seed stuff in the second half of the season. There's Jane Arryn, who's a big character from the books, currently ruling over House Arryn in the Vale. She's sympathetic to Rhaenyra for a number of reasons. We'll get into that when they actually introduce her in the episodes. All the houses of the North, just in general, tend to favor Rhaenyra, but you really only need the support of House Stark and House Arryn, like the 2 really big powers in the North, and everybody else will follow with them. Then we have Alan Hull, one of Corlys's other bastards, who seems like he becomes one of his commanders of his fleet, but not a dragon rider. A lot of people confused about this too, like how can bastards of Corlys Velaryon become dragon riders? If it wasn't clear, the Valyrians also have the blood of ancient Valyria in their veins, but typically they were not thought of as dragon riders during the time of ancient Valyria. What wound up happening, though, is that after the Targaryens came to Westeros, they started intermarrying with the Velaryons because they were both from ancient Valyria. So a lot of descendants within the Valyrian family line wind up getting some of that Targaryen Valyrian dragon rider blood. For instance, Corlys Velaryon could technically bond with a dragon, but he's chosen never to do that, but that's why his son can also, because he married into the Targaryen family. His wife Rhaenys rides melees, so naturally, even if he couldn't ride a dragon, their son would have been able to ride a dragon, and he rode Seasmoke, obviously. There's Alice Rivers, who's known as the Witch of Harrenhal in the lore. She becomes Aemon's lover in the books as well. We'll see if they go there on the show. Based on the plot, it's kind of hard to tell if they actually make it there by the events of the end of season 2. That might not be till like a future season. She spends most of her time at Harrenhal, so we'll meet her character when Daemon goes to Harrenhal to try and take the castle. Aemon does look like he visits a brothel at some time during the season. This probably is not her next to him in bed, though. This is probably just a random girl. We finally have an actor, Freddie Fox, playing Gwaine Hightower. He's Alicent's brother. We did see him under his armor during season 1. Daemon kicked the crap out of him during the tournament in episode 1 just to humiliate Otto Hightower. The way they describe his character is that he's kind of like a posh boarding school kind of kid who thinks he's really hot stuff, but then, like a lot of the other characters, the other younger characters during this part of the timeline, when they're faced with actual war, actual fighting, they kind of buckle under the pressure, like, oh, wait a minute, it's real now, crap. Be prepared for him to get his ass handed to him a bunch more times. Big character from Essos, Shirako Lohar is meant to be the new leader of the Triarchy's forces. The Greens try to ally with them, giving them some support along the eastern seaboard of Westeros, which is currently controlled and blockaded by the Blacks and Corlys's fleet. Another big house that we saw a lot during the original main series, the Tullys, are back in the story because Rhaenyra is trying to gain their support. Oscar Tully is listed in the cast, but not Grover Tully, so I don't know if we'll see Grover. The big joke here, obviously, is that George R. R. Martin named some Tullys after Sesame Street characters. Grover Tully is the current head of House Tully during the Dance of the Dragons here. He's the grandfather of Oscar Tully, who eventually does become the new lord. And like I mentioned earlier, very notable, infamous house, House Rain, reintroduced into the story, at least through Martin Rain here. We probably see a couple other members of House Rain in the background too. Looks like he's serving as one of Aegon's announcers here as he enters the Iron Throne room. Martin Rain isn't an actual character from the books, but House Rain was active during this period. It's long before the fall of their house. Now remember, they're bannermen to House Lannister, they're from the Westerlands, the Lannisters sit on the Green Council, so pretty much everybody in the Westerlands supports the Greens, thus House Rain support the Greens. The actual fall of House Rain, when the Rains of Castamere eventually became a song, didn't happen till the time of the main show, like preceding the events of the main show. Tywin Lannister was the person responsible because they rebelled against him. Most people remember their house because of the Rains of Castamere song during the actual Red Wedding. What used to happen is that after the fall of House Rain, Tywin Lannister would often have the Rains of Castamere song played as a form of intimidation because anytime he played it, everybody would instantly remember what he did to House Rain. But during the events of the Dance of the Dragons here, we're like a long ways out from that happening. A lot of the very young children characters got recast because not much time has gone by since the end of Season 1, and kids in real life grow super quickly. For instance, Helena's children, Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, because so much time has gone by, we saw them during Season 1, but they're basically the same age that we saw during Season 1. There's so much going on during Season 2, and because they aren't going to do any kind of big time jumps during the middle of the season, you get to spend way more time with all the characters. So for instance, one of the most interesting characters, Helena, because it seems like she has dragon dreams and is telling everybody what's going to happen eventually, even though they don't totally understand what she's saying. We wind up spending a lot more time with her during Season 2, so don't be surprised if she drops a couple more prophecies of things that will come to pass. Some of the prophecies in the dragon dreams that she was talking about during Season 1 are things that they'll pay off during Season 2, particularly for Aegon's character. Like I said, Episode 1 is going to be airing on Sunday. My video for that will post right after they release it. I've already done a non-spoilery review for that episode. Click here for that, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon Season 2 videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.